Good afternoon. My name is Charlie Schwenk. I'm Chief Commercial Officer for Meridian Energy Group. I've spent half of my career in major law firms, helping people develop energy infrastructure and natural resource projects with project finance in mind. And I've spent the other half of my career in places like Bechtel and Fluor and now Meridian doing the same. Today I'm going to talk about the Davis Refinery, Meridian's project up in North Dakota in the heart of the Bakken. It's a 49,500 barrel per day refinery using Bakken light sweet crude oil from shale. It's specifically designed to maximize the production of high quality, high value transportation fuels, diesel, gasoline, ultra low sulfur marine fuel, IMO 2020 marine fuel. About 95% or more of all products will fit in that category. Axens is the process supplier. McDermott is the feed to EPC contractor. The financial advisors are CIBC and Morgan Stanley. Project has all of its permits. Its engineering is about 75% complete. The feed to EPC process is expected to be completed, and notice to proceed and close of financing to occur in the fourth quarter of 2020, with commercial operation date at the end of 2023. Next slide shows the advantages that we have starting with a clean sheet of paper. By that I mean that, as all of you know in this room, most of the refineries in the United States are well over 50 years old. There hasn't been a major refinery that's a full conversion refinery built in decades. The feedstocks have changed. Most refineries are using a feedstock that they weren't designed for, or they may be using more than one feedstock that they're not designed for. Regulations, environmental and otherwise, have imposed new requirements that they weren't designed for. They've been playing catch up. And their markets that define their valuable products have changed. It's been remarkable that the people in this industry have been able to keep these refineries going for 50 years. That's quite an accomplishment, but they've had to play a lot of catch up, and they're still doing so. We felt that we'd be better off starting with a clean sheet of paper. We look at the Bakken crude, and it's not only plentiful, but it's available to us at a significant discount to WTI, what we call the Bakken differential, simply because there is not a lot of refining capacity near the Bakken, so it costs quite a bit to ship it to remote refineries on the Gulf Coast and elsewhere. We also found a site that has excellent logistics to serve underserved refined product markets in upper Midwest, Pacific Northwest, Rocky Mountain areas, and so forth. And those markets that are underserved today are becoming less well served because a lot of the refineries that are serving them are much older than 50 years and are beginning to disappear. Problem with North Dakota, of course, everyone thinks of North Dakota, they think of cold weather. It's very difficult to build anything in the winter in North Dakota. But turned out that actually created an advantage for us because we had to think very seriously about modularization, and we had to maximize modularization. So what that does is shorten the construction schedule because you're fabricating process units simultaneously rather than being forced to build them essentially serially on the project site. You're also able to use highly experienced labor in markets like the Gulf Coast, whereas in North Dakota, you'd have a very thin experienced labor pool. And it allows us to end up with a smaller footprint, more efficient footprint. To that, we can apply the latest technology and focus on digitalization, remote control, and so forth. The next slide is going to talk about the permitting process there. we've had the good fortune of having quite a few people in the management of the company who have experience in application of the equator principles internationally, using those principles to identify, mitigate environmental and social risks and impacts. Critical to that process, we learned from applying the equator principles, is first of all identifying the baseline. What's unique about your particular location or situation? In North Dakota, in our particular area, we're a couple of miles from the Theodore Roosevelt Park. It's a very important national park, valued very much by the local community and by people throughout the United States and probably throughout the world. So we have to be sensitive to it and make sure that we go out of our way to protect it. There was a boom and bust situation up there with a lot of dislocation as a result of previous development efforts. We had to be sensitive to that. It helped a lot that we had leaders in the community on our board who gave us extra sensitivity to it. And there were some problems left over from the DAPL, the Dakota Access Pipeline development process, that we had to make sure that we learned from and didn't repeat. What we ended up with is a dephased project. It was originally going to be two projects, several years apart, working with our regulators, the Department of Environmental Quality, the EPA, with Axons. We were able to get better capital efficiency by compressing it into one project, and most importantly, being able to permit that project as a synthetic minor source. It was a collaborative effort of our regulators and our process supplier and us. We also were very careful to create a very robust record for appeals, which we knew were inevitable. So we went way out of our way to make sure that everything was analyzed, recorded, vetted with the local community as well as the regulators. What we ended up with is a design for a plant that has air emissions about 1/8 of the average US refinery, about 1/6 of the next cleanest refinery in the United States. Greenhouse gas emissions are less than 1/2 of the average. And furthermore, we have no impact on the local aquifer. We originally thought we were going to have to use wells. Turned out that the city of Dickinson was working on a water treatment facility for other purposes. We were able to help their capital efficiency and them help ours by helping them expand that to meet our needs, so that we use recycled water from their plant and then we turn it back to them for further recycling. Let's talk about the process to get to project financing. The most important thing from a pre-construction, or I should say pre-operation stage, is getting a good lump sum, turnkey, fixed price contract. That required that we start with a front-end engineering design package on a reimbursable cost basis to get to a project definition. And we wanted to make sure that we did so with a contractor who could also be the turnkey EPC contractor. We didn't want someone defining a project that they didn't have to live with. We also wanted a contractor who could wrap the Axons technology. McDermott was the ideal choice after reviewing several major contractors, and we've been very happy with our choice. Been very collaborative. We wanted to make sure that we had an open book process. By that I mean that it is collaborative, that everything is done where we see it as it's happening. All contingencies are identified and justified on a line item basis. No black boxes. All work product and deliverables are deliverable to us and usable by us. And if in the unlikely event that we should choose another contractor at the end of the process, to that contractor. No secret sauce that we couldn't use. That is a difficult thing to accomplish in a feed process, and it's worked very well with McDermott. We also negotiated the critical terms of the EPC contract upfront and incorporated them into the feed contract. That keeps us from having upsets and major risk contingencies at the end of the feed process, and allows a smooth transition to the actual EPC contract, which can be negotiated in parallel with the feed. The slide shows you the advantages to the EPC as we've outlined it. I will skip over that in the interest of time, talk more about project financing. As most of you in this room know, the project financing is not that often used in the refining industry. Vertically integrated refiners typically use corporate financing or cash flow financing. The non-integrated refiners tend to avoid the necessity of tolling, which typically is required by limited recourse project financing, because if you go to a toll, you've got a lot less to work with in terms of profitability. We had the same feeling. We didn't want to toll either. But for us, project financing wasn't a choice, it was a necessity. We're a relatively small startup company. We've raised in small financings more than $50 million and spent more than $50 million. We have another 25 or 30 to go before we get to project financing. We don't have a backer to help take project risks. We brought CIBC and Morgan Stanley in early to help us anticipate project finance issues and work with us. And of course, the main risk pre-commercial operation is the turnkey contract, which we've already discussed. What I really want to focus on is what we did for the market risk. I think that was somewhat unique. Rather than having a toll, we have what we call a synthetic toll. Protect the crack spread as much as we can, as close to a toll would do. We have a long-term crude supply contract with a major supplier, Bakken producer, who has agreed to sell to us at the Bakken differential and to obtain supplies at below the Bakken differential as well. So we will do at least as well as the Bakken differential. We will have a significant discount to WTI. So then the trick is to make sure that we're always going to sell refined products at a significant premium to WTI. So we analyzed each of the markets which were available to us for historical data and for what was affecting them. We have built into our offtake agreement the flexibility to choose the markets which give us the best spread over WTI, and we have safety built in for the worst case scenarios where we still have a healthy spread. So we have effectively protected the crack spread as if we had a toll. Then we need to drive that crack spread to profitability through efficient use of capital, efficient operation, and the application of the latest technologies. Next slide. Well, I guess it's still on the same slide, isn't it? Yeah. How do we do this in the current environment? It isn't easy. The problems associated with it are obvious. There's not a lot of investors out there looking to invest right now, and those that are very cautious. The bigger problem, I think, in many respects, has been working remotely. It's just plain inefficient. It's time consuming. When you're trying to do project financing, you need to get people in the room making decisions and not leaving the room till they're done making decisions. Very difficult to do in a remote environment. But there are, believe it or not, benefits to the situation. Our project doesn't come online until 2023. I think all of us believe that we will be a lot closer to the old normal, perhaps a new normal, but closer to the old normal than we are today in 2023. There are energy investors out there who specifically target energy, oil and gas, and downstream oil and gas, and they have a lot of dry powder. They don't have a lot of good alternatives. We are one of the few, if not the only one, in the market right now. So that's an advantage for us. The other advantage, which was really unexpected, is that we've always counted on there being structural corrections in the refining industry because of all the old refineries that are out there that aren't particularly efficient. We expected them to go by the wayside over time. What has happened with the current situation is that has accelerated. We've seen refineries closing at an accelerated pace because of what's happening in the market today. So wish us luck. We believe we're going to get project financing on schedule, and then we're going to turn around and repeat that process many times over again in other shale oil basins, hopefully with the same partners. Thank you.